Let's bring in for more comment on the situation regarding Ukraine. Patrick Berry, Associate Professor in Warfare and Counterterrorism at the University of Bath. Excuse me, Patrick. I'm struggling with a cold, so I apologise for mispronouncing the name of Bath there, which of course I know very well because I used to live around there. Great to see you and thanks for being with us. The situation as we see it, it's long been mooted that there should be some kind of a European army. Is this now back on the table as a real and genuine possibility that should be advanced, do you think?
In terms of a European army wider than the reassurance force that may go into Ukraine, is that what you mean, Mark?
I think that would be the possible extension to that, because of course it would start with what happened in Ukraine, but as the United States withdraws more and more, as seems to be the pattern that is being set up under Trump, wouldn't that leave more and more of a vacuum in terms of what used to fill that space in NATO?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's putting the cart before the horse, really. We've got a crisis of European security on our doorstep, essentially, with Ukraine. So we need to sort that out first. Yeah, I mean, is there a credibility problem about the United States commitment to NATO, even though Trump only last week said that he remained committed to NATO and supporting Article 5? I still think there is, because we're hearing mixed messages, or what Europe is interpreting as mixed messages. So, but, you know, there's bigger fish to fry at the moment about a European army, let's be honest.
OK, so when Donald Trump says he's stopping military aid to Ukraine, what is your reading of the situation? How do you think that will develop? Is this essentially curtains for Ukraine's efforts?
No, I don't think so. I think it was to be expected. It could have been worse. I'm really glad to hear that Zelensky has essentially apologized and moved quickly now to look for the deal, the rare earth mineral deal, to be signed. Also saying that he's committed to the peace process and he would like it to move fast, and suggesting alongside the UK and France about a potential truce on the sea and in the air and on protecting civil infrastructure, and then see if that can be extended to the ground after a month or so if both sides commit. So listen, Ukraine needs to get back to the table. It needs to show Trump it's serious about trying to end the war. We'll see how he responds. And then when it's at the table, let's see if the Russians are serious about ending the war, because then the onus is on them and it's their next move. So, you know, this spat is really unfortunate. I think, like, I'm a big supporter of Zelensky and what he's done for the Ukrainian nation. But I think there was a couple of outs where things were getting tense on that Friday, where he could have just been a little bit more prudent and not kept going.
OK, so the idea there that what happened last Friday was the two sides to the story. I suppose that's probably the best way to put it. In terms of what Vladimir Putin does, that will be key, won't it? Because he does have a track record of not respecting treaties.
Well, you can't trust him, and this is where the next thing is about. You know, where we're kind of at is what would a potentially European-led reassurance force of maybe 15 to 20,000 troops at a time, with obviously a larger force behind that, supplying it and rotating with it. So you're talking about a potentially like 60,000 or so on this rotation. This seems to be a number that's being bandied about. The question, of course, is, you know, if we return to Vance's comments, which you had in your intro there, you know, he's talking about sending essentially US mining companies with probably a protective security umbrella from a private security company over them to areas. Well, a lot of the rare earths are in Donetsk, which have been fought over, but even other areas in Ukraine. And the question is, you know, I've had a career where part of which was giving advice to extractive industries on how to work in high threat environments. And they run off two things, really. And the first one is profit and the second one is risk, you know, and where those meet is their sweet spot, you know, up to where they can operate. And obviously there's an insurance issue. Now, there's easily, because as you said, Putin has broken the Minsk Accords and repeatedly. Europe can't trust them, like you just can't. So you're in a situation where what seems to be that Vance is suggesting is that you put these mining companies in and you put a private security umbrella over them, and then that's all okay. Like, the thing is, what if it's not? Where is the US position if it's not? How is that a security guarantee is my big question. Because The Russians would use a sort of hybrid attacks of sabotage if they wanted to undermine that, potentially drone explosions, and then they could just escalate. They could breach the line of contact, as it were, and just start to roll near it. And at some point, those CEOs have to decide, do we stick around? The CEO of the private security company has to call for the US, where we need more help because the Russians are coming. It does not absolve this idea that we essentially need troops there, because military will take risk. Business will only take a certain amount of risk. So that's a really important point. Secondly, on his comments about what appears to be the French and the British Army, and the militaries, I would say a couple of things. In my head and my analyst head on, I'm like, okay, well, look what he said. He did kind of retract it. And it's clear from his tweets that he was probably referring to another nation which hasn't fought, question mark, in Europe over the last 30 to 40 years, who have privately offered to put 20,000 troops in there if there is a US security guarantee. Potentially that's the explanation. Nevertheless, I actually am a combat veteran, served in the British Army, had the privilege to lead Rangers and also the US Marine Corps troops in Afghanistan in 2008. And, we fought and we bled together, and some of us died. So I find it pretty offensive, and I think there should be a clarification there from the Vice President and potentially an apology.
Respect to you for your career, Patrick, and respect to you for sharing your analysis with us here on France 24. We appreciate it, and we appreciate the clarity you've brought to what is a very, at times, confusing situation. Patrick Berry there, Senior Associate Professor in Warfare and Counterterrorism from the University of Bath in the very beautiful